Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wonder Series. It's Wonder Wednesday. This is your weekly opportunity to wonder how life would be different if you thought differently, if you acted differently, if you opened your mind and changed your mindset. Who would you be? What would you create? And ultimately, how could all of those things help you live that healthy, happy life that you have been striving for, and all with ease? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Denise Stiegel. I'm the CEO and curator at livinghealthylist.com and your host here of the Wonder Series. So the past few weeks, we have been wondering about how to bring more peace and happiness into our lives. Yes, we need more peace and happiness when things are crazy, but we also need that peace and happiness on a regular basis so we can truly enjoy our lives on every single day, every moment of every day. So I'm really excited to talk with my special guest and co-author of The Successful Body, Miss Wendy Quan. Wendy is the founder of The Calm Monkey. And as you can see, she is a mindfulness facilitator and trainer and an amazing, amazing person. You are going to love talking with Wendy. So, hey, Wendy, how are you?
Hi, Denise. Hi, everybody. I'm great. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm really
Yeah.
excited about this opportunity for us to chat.
hmm
So I like to always open these with, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you and what are you all about, Wendy?
Oh, my goodness. That's a big question, right? I'll try to distill it down because we all have our stories and what's happened. But so I'm the founder of The Calm Monkey, and The Calm Monkey specializes in training experienced meditators to become mindfulness facilitators in the workplace, if that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
So there's people that have discovered mindfulness and meditation generally are just so excited about it because it's changed their life so much and they'd like to share it with other people. But in order to do that, it needs to be done well with training. So I train and certify facilitators, mostly for the workplace or the community. And I help organizations start up mindfulness practices on a regular basis. So that's basically who I am today. That wasn't who I was many years ago.
Well, I think it's important, we're always learning and growing, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us then, how did you actually get interested originally? Because I think in your past life, you did something very different in your career.
Oh, yes. I I had a very long career, like decades really, in corporate management. So I was a corporate person in HR and information technology and organizational change management. So very corporate, living the corporate life, having a big mortgage and trying to raise a family. And I was a really stressed out person. And to be honest with you, I didn't care that I was stressed out because I thought, everybody's dealing with this. It's not just me. So suck it up and just get through it. Right.
Mhm.
And basically, I had learned about mindfulness and meditation prior to that, but I was just dabbling in it and I wasn't taking it that seriously. So basically, the big turning point for me was in 2010. I got a cancer diagnosis. And, I don't smoke, I don't drink. I thought I was living pretty healthy.
Mhm.
So that was just the big whack on the side of the head. And that's when I decided to practice mindfulness meditation on a daily basis. And it changed everything for me, honestly. Like, it's not easy going through that, but it gave me the strength to make decisions, to be less scared about it,
Mm.
to deal with things in the moment as it came, and all those things. And then basically, just really quickly, I'll say, when I went back to work, I was working at Blue Cross.
Mhm.
So I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, actually, I should say. And I went back to my corporate job, and a lot of people asked me to show them what I knew. So this was back in 2011,
Wow.
before anybody was talking about workplace mindfulness, right?
Right.
And so I started small and got 12 friends together at work, like coworkers. We got a room without a window because I was apprehensive about it. Like, what would people think about me? Because I was the organizational change manager
Mhm.
at the time. And this was pretty soft stuff, right? And basically it grew from there. And I had 183 people coming to my sessions,
Wow.
not all together, but as on a drop-in basis, on a weekly basis. I was doing this in a volunteer situation to help people with mindfulness. And then it grew from there. I helped other companies. And now I left my career to focus on the Calm Monkey full time to help organizations around the world. And it's just been a huge blessing.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
funny. You said that at the time, you were an organizational change manager.
Mhm.
How appropriate a title for someone who was changing really the culture of an organization without
Mhm.
actually even knowing it in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I started doing like I was doing my job, helping the organization and people through change, and kind of a little off the side of the desk doing these sessions. And then the light bulb turned on one day, and I go, hey, this could all really help people combining mindfulness and change management. And so I collected data with this group and we went through a huge transformation. And I just want to mention that through your offering there for
Mhm.
this, there's a white paper. So I wrote a white paper, collected data. It got peer reviewed by the Global Association of Change Management Professionals, and I got flown to Vegas to present the paper. It was really quite something. I really would encourage people to read that
Mhm.
paper if you're curious about, mindfulness at work. How does that look? How can you do it? What benefits are there? It's all in that white paper.
It's a fantastic paper. When
Yeah.
you and I first connected, as soon as we got off the call, I jumped on your website and I downloaded the white paper, because one of the things that we find so important at Living Healthy List, and really it's essential, is data and the science behind, because a
Mhm.
lot of what we do in health and wellness is, maybe it's a little fluffy, maybe they call it a soft science. But when you have real data and you can say to people, look, this really does work, they can't poo poo it.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And this is all very data driven. I do everything secular, which means non spiritual, non
Mhm.
religious, right? So it's open to anybody who's interested in doing this.
That's
Yeah,
truly, truly amazing.
yeah.
I think what I love about the white paper and with what you do is, many people are confused by what mindfulness is. We may have an idea what we think it is. So if you would help us understand that a little bit more. What is mindfulness? What are we missing?
Right. I'd love to answer that because there is a lot of misunderstanding about it. Um, there's a term mindfulness meditation as well. So I'd like to define for people what meditation is, what mindfulness is, and what mindfulness meditation
Mhm.
is. Okay. So just briefly, so I'll start with meditation. And simply put, and this is a generalization, but meditation to me is hitting the pause button in the day and sitting down, maybe closing your eyes and focusing and concentrating on the object of your meditation that you've chosen to do. So there's lots of different types of meditations out there. And of course, the breath meditation is a very common one. But the misunderstanding about meditation, I think, is that it's having a blank mind,
Mm.
and when you meditate, you're supposed to be all blissed out. And that's not the case at all. It's, having whatever experience comes and focusing on whatever you chose to focus on. So now I'll talk about mindfulness. And people generally understand mindfulness is about being in the now and being present, which is great. And that's true. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's the non judgment piece. So,
Mm.
which kind of means noticing when you're judging something or somebody and maybe not acting on that judgment. So just kind of checking yourself, checking your ego as well, right?
Mhm.
Non-judgment. And there's also the idea of just awareness, what's going on within you and around you in that moment. Um, and the idea about being with what is. And that takes a bit of explanation, but being with what is kind of an acceptance of what's going on in your life. You don't have to like it, but you can accept it and see what's going on so you can move forward with intention and consciousness, right? Okay. And then mindfulness meditation together is simply when you're doing a meditation that keeps you in the present moment. So that would be a really good example as a breath meditation because you're in the moment when you're noticing what's going on. An example of what's not a mindfulness meditation would be, say, a guided visualization where you're asked to be, remember when you're on vacation and you're walking along the beach and it takes you away from the present moment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does that help?
That really does clear it
Okay,
up. I think,
good.
it's interesting because I've been practicing a little more as I've gotten in more and more involved with Living Healthy List. So the last few years, I've done a little bit more mindfulness meditation, one of each. Because I try to be mindful when I'm talking to people. I'm trying to be mindful, during in my day when my husband is working from home. Those days, you have to be a little bit more mindful
Yes.
of the other person.
Yeah.
And meditation, what I find, I like the in the moment type of meditations. The visualization ones for me have a place. But it's not something that I can do like during my day. It's maybe something I can do at the beginning of my day or the end of the day.
Yes.
So there really is an interesting way to weave both or all of them into your day.
And I would like to just add to that, Denise, you're absolutely right. Like, this can be a really big conversation about lots of different examples and ways to incorporate mindfulness into your life. Now, when I went through the cancer diagnosis, I made the decision to change my lifestyle. And, again, I thought I was living a healthy lifestyle until I realized what living healthy was really about. Right. And not having the processed foods and all that sort of thing. And what you're doing and all you produce is just beautiful. And it helps me as well because, my diagnosis was 11 years ago now, but I kind of go through these ups and downs and I'm okay with that. I don't kind of force myself to be 100% eating healthy all the time, for instance, because then it feels, you start to resent it.
It's
Right?
restrictive then.
Yeah. So what you're doing is really helpful. And mindfulness comes into that because every time I choose what I'm going to be eating, you kind of check in, okay, do you really want to do this or not? Is it in your best interest? Or maybe it's a treat and it's okay to do that, right?
Absolutely. And I think the added piece to that is to enjoy it without any guilt. And I think that's really, and again, that's a mindfulness piece. So if you're going to have a donut or you're going to have a piece of chocolate or the candy bar, you decide to have it, enjoy it, savor the taste, savor the moment, and no judgment, and then move forward onto that next thing that you have in your life.
Exactly. Good point.
Tell me how, I mean, I think we all think of doing mindfulness practices and more meditation when things are tough. Why is it important for people to do when things are going okay?
It's really interesting. I get asked to speak a lot to organizations and at conferences and whatnot. And I always say, what's the desired outcome? Why are you asking for this? And inevitably it's, our staff are all stressed out and we really need to provide them with tools to deal with everything going on. And I totally get that. And absolutely, that's what this is here to address. But what, the other thing is not everybody is going through a hard time right now. You can't generalize. And even in our lives, this week might be great, tomorrow might be terrible. And that's why these practices are really for all the times in our lives, I feel. And even when things are like boring and mundane, mindfulness can really help bring life to those things so they don't feel as mundane. Like I do, one of the things I show is like standing meditation. Well, what's that? When you're just standing, like waiting in line, we're waiting in line a lot more these days. When you're standing and waiting in line, you can just check in. You can just like focus on your body, feel your body's sensations. How are you feeling right now? What are you thinking? What thoughts are going through your head? And all of that just kind of helps with the boredom that can happen in life. But also when things are good, it helps you appreciate those even more and cultivate gratitude, compassion and kindness and gratitude as well.
Which really
Yeah.
kind of goes right into this, creating this, bringing this peace and happiness into our lives on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Right.
the last year and a half has been pretty stressful, and we've all experienced something. But on a regular basis, like, we should have peace and happiness in our lives. I think, we're put on this earth. We're put on the earth not to be happy, not to be miserable and stressed out and all of the negatives. So how do we bring that, bring that peace in, that peace and happiness? How does the mindfulness piece help us with that?
That's a great question. I would say that mindfulness helps us notice things that we wouldn't normally notice.
Mm.
And, you can say something like, "Oh, stop and smell the roses," but that's actually kind of true. You know, um, like I might be having a kind of a stressful day or anxious day, and I'll just go outside for a moment
Mhm.
and just take a few breaths and look up to the sky. Or just kind of notice, oh, there's a ladybug crawling across the balcony rail or something like that. Or when you're sitting in a meeting and you're just kind of miserable, right? I would do, now this may sound a bit silly and simplistic, but I would just do different things. Like I might just do some breathing on my own
Mhm.
or just really pay extra attention to the person that is talking and just noticing more about who they are. What are they wearing? What are their facial expressions? Or just feeling the fabric of my jeans or something with my fingers. It's just, I had a chronic shoulder issue a few years ago. It was really bad. I went to 10 practitioners. Nobody could figure out what it was. I couldn't
Oh
sleep
my.
at night, all that stuff.
Oof.
But part of the things that you can do with mindfulness too is learn about how mindfulness can help with chronic pain, which is a super interesting topic, and people can just Google that. And John Kabat-Zinn is really good at explaining that. It's basically regarding something and changing your relationship with that. So what I mean by that is, my shoulder would hurt, and I would kind of, notice the hurt and kind of have some level of acceptance that it's there. And it's kind of like, yes, I see you. I do feel that. And what that does is something really interesting. It changes your relationship for how you're seeing it. And it's kind of like, yes, I see you, I acknowledge you. I
Mhm.
don't have to resist you quite as much and fight it because we always want the pain to go away. But if it's chronic pain, it's kind of there.
Yeah.
And so it kind of lightens that psychological way of looking at it. And then I might notice, oh, the rest of my body is great.
Mhm.
So again, it seems simplistic, but these are really, really powerful practices that
I
can
think
really.
that's really, I never really thought about mindfulness with chronic pain in that way. Um, and I'm really glad that we're talking about it, because I have several people in my life who, at this stage, as they've gotten older, have hip problems or shoulder problems or knee problems. And the only way they'll get rid of the pain is to have surgery. And none of them are at that place yet. And
Mhm,
so they're living with this chronic pain. And we all know when we're in pain, we're kind of grumpy,
mhm.
and that can have such a detrimental effect on everything else around us, everyone else around us, and really the way we spend our day. If we're grumpy because we have a chronic issue, we're always thinking about that issue.
Mhm.
By being mindful about the chronic pain, like you said, being accepting of it, not that it not that I think it would take all the pain away, obviously, but I think the
Right.
accepting piece, you just kind of can move on, move forward with the rest of your day, and not be so focused on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to explain that. And that's that element of being with what is.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good example because sometimes we can't get rid of the pain and we don't want it to bring us down where it's just exhausting us.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we have that pain, right, we can be exhausted thinking about it and feeling about it and kind of pushing it away and trying to get away from it all the time. So that's one lovely thing about mindfulness I find that can really help.
I
Yeah.
think that's great. I love that. I'm going to send this video to all the people that I know who have that chronic pain. And I
Okay,
wrote, the person you mentioned was John Kabat-Zinn.
Yeah, he is, I'll spell it in a moment because it is kind of an unusual name. He's considered, I think, the father of Western mindfulness.
Ah,
So decades ago, he's worth mentioning because all the people that come to me to get facilitator training, and I always make sure they know who he is because it's kind of like you need to know who this is. And he developed MBSR decades ago, and MBSR stands for mindfulness based stress reduction. So now that I've said that, you might kind of notice it a lot. Like people talk about the MBSR course quite a bit. It's an 8-week program where you end with a one-day silent retreat, and it's all these practices, how to be mindful. So John Kabat-Zinn is spelt Jon. His first name is John, Jon, and then Kabat-Zinn is Kabat-Zinn. And he's got tons of books and lots of great YouTube videos. And you can actually just Google John Kabat-Zinn chronic pain and it'll come up. And he'll teach you how to do this.
oh, this is going to be so
Okay.
helpful for so many people, Wendy. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm
Good.
glad you spelled it because I was thinking, I'm like, wow, he's got the perfect last name for a mindfulness guy, Zen.
Oh, okay.
And it's spelled differently.
Right. Right. So he's really respected. And anybody who wants to lead mindfulness for others should really know who he is. Right. And there's lots to know about leading other people. You have to lead people in an ethical, respected, skillful way. Because I also want to just say, Denise, too, that mindfulness isn't really for everybody. It's for most people, right? And it can help people in so many different ways. But sometimes if somebody has current or past trauma, practicing mindfulness can be a bit of a trigger for strong emotions. It doesn't happen a lot, but it absolutely can happen. So a facilitator needs to be aware of that and how
Absolutely.
to lead in a trauma sensitive way as well. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm a meditator and I'd love to share this with my friends. And they think, they can read a script and away you go. And there's so much more to it than that.
I think that's important for you. That's really an important point because I think you're right. A lot of people, we want to be helpful. That's what we do. We help each other. And I find that in the coaching world as well. People will say, oh, well, if as long as you're a little bit further on beyond somebody else, you can coach them. And I think that's really a slippery slope because there is training and understanding and learning to becoming, to coaching. And like you said, with mindfulness, whether you're a good practice, have a good practice or not, there's so much more to it. So thank you for bringing that point forward. I think that's really, really something that we do need to be aware of. When it comes to, and this is a little off the cuff because you mentioned the videos. There are a lot of YouTube videos, and obviously, if anybody wants to go to a video, find a YouTube video, go to John Kabat-Zinn. Aside from that, how does one find, like, how do you know if a video or a practitioner has the background?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so much out there. And it would take a little bit of looking to see who that person is and their background and what kind of training they've had. It's kind of interesting. When I started doing this myself in 2011, like showing other people what I knew, there was nothing out there. There was no training. I looked up facilitator training in the workplace. There was absolutely nothing. So I am the pioneer in this, and other programs have now come on and modeled after my program. But basically, we need to make sure the person's had proper training from a reputable training institution and certified, because it's not just about reading a script, it's understanding what can trigger people and what kind of practices are appropriate for what audience. And there's more and more mindfulness going into the workplace, which I'm thrilled about, because I think we really need to help people with that stress and to center themselves. And it's all, it's part and parcel of wellness. And a lot of organizations, thankfully, are finally putting budget and caring about their staff more through what's going on here. So to answer your question, like finding a good facilitator, it's, try to find out who did that, who's offering something. And it's kind of interesting too. One of the really popular apps, meditation apps, is called Insight Timer.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some really good meditations on there, but you know what? There's some really bad ones too. And I say bad because I think when you listen to them, you can tell that they're not trained on the purpose and the goal of that meditation. For
So they're
instance,
more reading a script.
yeah, but you know what I find is when people are untrained, what they start to do, they start to write their own scripts and they start throwing in everything that they like. And this really happens quite a bit. That, for instance, so they might like to do gratitude meditation, and they like to do a body scan, and then they like to visualize a happy future, and then breathing, and they'll put like 5 or 6 different actually meditations crammed into one. And as they're leading the listener, there's no purpose, there's no focus, and they're actually mixing a lot of different kinds of practices together, which I don't think is the right thing to do. So we have to be clear when people are leading others. You have to be clear on what the purpose is, how you're leading people, giving people the opportunity to feel the practice properly, because a lot of people will talk a lot in a meditation and not give people the opportunity to just really sink into it and feel it.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've actually experienced that. Interesting, on Insight Timer, and I don't remember who I was following, but the person just kept talking throughout the whole thing, and all I felt I was doing was listening to her. And
Right.
and
Exactly.
at the end, I kind of felt at the end, I'm like, okay, well, that was nice, except now I needed another one to kind of regroup, because it just didn't have, like you said, it didn't have a purpose, but it actually made me feel not worse, but it didn't make me feel any more calm or in the moment.
Right. Because, see, these are the kinds of things that a facilitator needs to know. Because if I'm talking, then the listener is busy listening to me and they haven't yet really started to experience the practice. So that's just one example of many. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I notice with you, Wendy, is your demeanor and the way you speak, the calm in your voice. Just listening to you, you were meant for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really do enjoy listening to you, and because your information comes from experience, from the heart, and through education. So that piece is
Thank
really
you.
so important. And I think you've made so many great points about, finding a good facilitator, making sure the person that you follow has a certification, has the correct background. I think that is something, again, that I don't think many of us have thought about. We think mindfulness, oh, I could just do this breath, these couple of breaths and I'll be fine. And there's so much more. It's so much deeper than that.
Right. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things and you touched upon this a little bit about, mindfulness and how that brings some peace and happiness, but more about that human experience, how mindfulness can really bring us to experiencing that human experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. May I say a passage?
I would love for you to.
Okay. I wrote this just, I think, yesterday, and I would love to share this with you and your audience, and then we can talk a bit further if you'd like about it. But when I thought about your theme of peace and happiness, I thought about, that's all wonderful, absolutely, and we all tend to strive for that. But the reality of life is that we have these ups and downs all the time. So I invite you to just listen to this. If you'd like, you can close your eyes or just have a soft gaze in front of you. And it's just a couple of lines here. And so I'll say it for you. Life is amazing. Then it's awful. then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful, it's ordinary and routine. Mindfulness brings us to the present moment so we can see what's right here, right now. We are here to have our full human experience. Thank you.
That's beautiful. And with that, Wendy, I think we're just going to end right there with that beautiful passage. And
Okay.
I would love for everyone to listen to that passage again, listen to the replay, listen to that, write it down, and it's something to bring into your heart, bring into your life. So, Wendy, thank you for bringing that into our lives today.
I appreciate it, Denise. Thank you so much. I love talking to you, and thank you for helping so many people to live healthier. It's helping me.
Well, that's what we're here for. We help each
Okay.
other. And so
Okay.
I'm excited to share you with our audience and with Living Healthy List. So thank you, everyone, for being with
Okay.
us for another wonderful Wonder Series Wednesday. Until next week, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, I leave you with this: healthy living, happy life. Thanks, everyone.